you service your transmission, then, you're going to have less problems with it.
Correct, because the transmissions, and if you take this Caravan, if you go to a transmission shop, you're probably looking at a bill between $1,500 and $2,000. Here we have a power flush system, which is a minimal amount where what we actually do is we replace the filter and we flush all of the transmission fluid out, including the torque converter. And that will give you extra long life to your transmission's life, which, a little bit of maintenance goes a long ways.
Thank you. Chris, where and how do you check your brake fluid? That's in there somewhere, and yeah. I understand that there's certain kind of fluids that go in there. You just can't put any just kind of fluids in there.
That's right, Joe. This vehicle has a tube that comes out. Generally, they're labeled on what kind of fluid goes in there. Standard vehicles usually .3 fluid. You can usually, like Bill said earlier, you can visually see what the level is through the clear plastic. It's just something that you should check regularly anyways, because if you're low on brake fluid, you can...
Right. Thank you. So if you're going through a lot of brake fluid, what is that a sign of? Could it be a sign of other things, or is it just a sign that it just goes away, or brake fluid doesn't evaporate, does it?
Brake fluid generally doesn't evaporate. Generally, you may have a problem with your brake system. The most common things that we see is when someone checks their brake fluid and it's low, their brakes are actually wearing out. You may not have a leak. However, it's a hydraulic reservoir, and as your brake calipers push out, it takes more fluid out of the reservoir. So as the fluid gets low, it's still in the car, but your brake pads are actually worn out.
Right. Because the fluid actually takes the place of the thickness of the pad.
Correct.
And the types of fluid that you add to it, is certain kinds? Is there different kinds of brake fluid?
Yeah, there's different kinds, and once again, you need to look at the cap or any owner's manual to let you know what types of brake fluid. I believe that the newer vehicles are going with a .4 or .5, which gives it the brakes run hotter on these newer vehicles because they scale them down, and they have a semi-metallic brake pad. So if you would put a .3 or a .5 is supposed to go, what could happen would be that your brake fluid could actually bubble and cause your pedal to be soft. That's why it's very important to check your owner's manual. And if you go to any professional service station, that's what we always look for. Look and see which type of fluid goes in that vehicle, because that's something that you don't want to do. And the other thing is that one of the most overlooked fluids is the brake fluid. Even though the fluid is full, over the course of time, moisture gets inside the system, and that could actually help destroy your lines, your calipers, and your wheel cylinders. So that's just something that you should look in the owner's manual, see when you should replace that fluid also. And we also do have the power flush system where we can power flush the fluid out of your vehicle.
We also have test strips which can test the brake fluid for moisture in them.
Correct. And that will help, when you don't have brakes, it's not a good feeling.
Right. Thanks. Yeah. Bill, where is your air filter located? They're located in different places, but I understand that sometimes they're not as easy to change as other times.
This one's a crazy car, I'm gonna tell you. Most of them in the old days, we always say, is that they used to be right above where you would have your carburetor, but lo and behold, this is fuel injection, which most vehicles are. Probably from 1986, 87 about. Most are fuel injected vehicles, and that's a good thing because cars run a lot better, they start better. If you go out there at 20 below zero, your car's going to start. Back in the 80s, they didn't start as well as they do now. And so on this vehicle, it takes a little bit of time to do it. You need to take out these two bolts, unhook the clamp, and you take the top section off, and the air filter is down in the bottom right there.
How important is it, Bill, to change your air filter?
Well, it's very important for a couple of reasons. One is that the air filter obviously cleans the air before it goes into your throttle throat assembly, and that will actually help increase your engine life. The other thing is it's good for fuel economy. I know we're all looking to have good fuel economy to keep our air clean, and by changing the air filter, we'll do one of each.
So does that depend how often you change it? Does that depend on the type of driving you do? Or?
Well, I think if you live on an old dusty road up in New Boston, you're probably going to want to clean it a lot more often than if you live in, let's say Manchester, or you stay on a lot of just tar roads or highway. It really depends on what kind of driving you do.
Right.
If you have a Jeep and you're four-wheeling, well, you might want to check a little bit more often.
So even though the maintenance schedule says to change it every 5 or 10, it may be that you may need to change it earlier.
Well, it's
than
a good thing to check with every oil change, and most
Yeah.
service facilities will do that.
Is there a way that a person, once he takes the air filter out, can take a look at it and say, hey, I need an air filter?
Well, the rule of thumb is that what you do is you take a light. Man, hey, you had one of those lights in your car. You can do it yourself.
Yeah.
You just want to run the
Yeah.
light through it. You
Yeah.
don't need no electricity for that. Just plug it into your car,
Yeah.
and you'll be all set.
Right.
And that's a good rule of thumb. If you can see light through it, it's still okay.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.
I noticed that these batteries today are, like, they say that they're maintenance-free. Chris, what about your battery? Is there anything you need to know about maintenance-free batteries that really, it looks to me like if it says maintenance-free, it means that I can just leave it there forever until it goes dead. Is that right? No.
Well, you shouldn't let it just go. You should always check it. You can bring it to a garage, have it looked at. They can actually put it on a meter and test it. Sometimes the battery may seem good with a surface charge, and it may start your car a little bit slow, but it could be just a surface charge actually turning all your functionings in your car. You want to make sure that your terminals are clean. Maintenance-free doesn't mean
It doesn't.
maintenance-free. You still need to look at some things on your car. I mean, you got your dates on it when the battery was put in the car. You want to keep your terminals clean. Generally, batteries last like 4 years.
4 years is about the average.
Yeah.
And what maintenance-free actually is the technology of the battery is actually only in the cap. In the old days, we had caps that would screw on, and when a battery is being charged from the alternator, it creates a vapor. And with the older batteries, a vapor would actually come out and go into the atmosphere. With the new batteries, they have caps on the top that act like, I'm going to say, acts like a still, where the vapor goes into the cap, cools off, and drips down back into the battery. So that's the maintenance-free part of it, is that you don't, and you really can't add water to these batteries anymore, because once you break the seal, you actually break the maintenance-free technology of the battery.
So it's a good idea then, when you're having the car serviced, to have an electronic test put on your battery?
Correct, because
Is
that's
that
not all we can do. We don't use the
hydrometers anymore?
hydrometers anymore, because,
Yeah.
like I said, if you ever take that cap off, it'll probably void your warranty.
Yeah.
And if you do have a battery that's like a year old and it's low on water and acid, then you probably have a different problem going on, like an overcharging situation where the maintenance-free battery cannot keep up with the type of charging that's
So
occurring.
if you notice that your car maybe is slow starting, or your lights are getting dim or something like that, so good to run it right in, because these cars can go dead on the road. They're just
Dead on the road, and these
they
batteries, these maintenance-free batteries really, they really give you no warning. Once you get out there, they'll just be dead. Because it takes a lot more power to start these vehicles, because of electronic fuel injection, and the starters take more amps than they can turn.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Bill, I know that every time something seems to go wrong with a car, it's always a fuse, but sometimes these fuses are kind of hard to find. Is there particular places? Are they under the hood, or?
Well, I'm going to have Chris check this out.
Where are the fuses usually located? I know that you could look in your maintenance book, and he probably could tell you, right?
Yep.
But then you got to find them.
It's true. Some cars are very difficult to find fuses. This one has some fuses out here plainly labeled. All directions are open. All you have to do is push a tab and pick up on it.
Oh,
Your
wow, the
fuses will
fuses
be
are
in
right in there.
That's right. These are your major fuses and your major relays. Also inside the car, generally there's a panel marked that says fuses on it. You could have them tested. You could bring it to a garage and have them tested, or you could just pull one out and you would look at it and see if the wire is broken. That
I see.
makes the connection.
Can you
between
just put any fuse in there if it's burned out, or do you have to be, has to be a particular, is there a number, or is there?
There is a number on them, and they're usually clearly marked. Like these ones are mostly 40. Each vehicle takes a different kind of fuse for a different function of the vehicle.
Because if it says it's a 40, you should put a 40 in, because that's what draws in the current. I remember a story a long time ago of somebody who put a bolt in and fried his dash.
Yeah, right. That could happen.
It's a good memory. I think it was on an Oldsmobile one year.
Yeah.
So that's a good story. So it's very important.
There's a lot of
And
stories.
Dad-
And how important is it, though, to put the right thing in there and not put a,
Well, that's the
You know-
important part is if you did it to your house, you burn your house down.
Yeah.
You know, and if you do it to your car, the same thing will
You burn
occur.
something out, so
You
it's
know,
very
you-
important. when
Very
you-
important to read which fuse goes in which location, and do not, up the amperage just because you may have a problem, because
Right.
some serious,
Right.
serious things could occur in your vehicle.
Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome.
Chris, where's your power steering fluid, and how often should you check it?
You should probably check it every time that you change your oil anyways, which any garage generally does. They check all your fluids anyways. This vehicle actually has a reservoir mounted on the fender. You just have a dipstick, just like your oil. Pull it out, wipe it off, put it back in, check it.
Can the power steering fluid be changed, or does that,
It can be flushed.
can be flushed?
Generally, power steering fluid is just an added thing, but you can flush it.
I noticed I had an old car one time, and I heard just all kinds of noise coming out of my power steering pump. Is that a sign of oil being low level of oil, or could it be
Generally, a whine is the sound of low fluid. You could have a faulty pump coming into play, but generally it's just a sign of low fluid.
It's probably those leaks you see underneath.
Yeah,
Probably
sometimes,
power steering
if you
fluid.
see a leak anywhere that's concerning, it should be checked by a service center.
Correct.
I know that, sometime when your wheel starts jerking when you go to turn it, that's a sign of what could that be a sign
It
of?
could be low fluid, or it could also be a loose belt. I mean, there's a few
Yeah.
things, and if,
Yeah.
you can always bring it to your local service center, and we'd be glad to check it out for you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bill, how often should you check the air in your tires? I mean,
Well,
that's an important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is one of the maintenance type situation that is largely overlooked.
Yeah.
I don't know if people realize that for every 10 degrees of temperature drop, you lose a pound of air. So that's why everybody makes a joke of summer air and winter air. It's been a big joke where you,
Yeah,
hey, it's
yeah.
time to take the winter air out and put in the summer air, but it actually occurs the other way, because you need to take out the winter air, because usually in the winter you'll have to add more air to it. That's why on a cold day, your tires will look lower. And the important part is not to check your tires after you've been on the road for a while. Especially in the summertime, if you've been on a long trip and you went to check your tires, if you put in, let's say, 35 pounds before you left, you may end up with 44 or 45 pounds. Because the hotter the tire gets, the more tire pressure is going to be inside the vehicle.
So what can happen if you let your tires, always be with low on air? I mean,
Well,
know.
I think we understand the Firestone situation was that if you don't have enough proper tire pressure, the tire can blow out. And that was the situation with Firestone, was that the manufacturer said it needed 28 pounds, and the tire manufacturer said it needed 36, and that's where they had the problems. So it's very important to have the proper tire pressure,
And,
which is on your tire, I believe. Each car is different. Most of them now are 36, 44. If you have a light truck, you may go up to 50 to 80 pounds. So it's very important to, once again, check your owner's manual.
They could wear tires too if you let them.
Well, it wears tires both ways. Too much air
Or
will
not enough
wear
air.
the tires in the middle, not enough air on the edges, and the handling capability of your vehicle will be greatly reduced if you do not have the proper tire pressure.
Right. So. Okay, Chris, how often should you check the tread on your tires? I understand there's a little gauge you can use, and if you would, you could probably show our viewers how the tire tread can be measured.
Well, you have this little gauge that reads 30 seconds. Basically, you'd put the tire tool, the measurement tool, on the wear bar of the tire. You want to measure from the wear bar, because that's the lowest recommended
I see.
wearing point of the tire by the manufacturer. And they just put it on the tire and they push it down to see what you have for tread.
And you look there and tell you how much it is.
You look right at the line and see what it has for tread left on it. The state requires 3 30 seconds, I believe.
I believe so, 2 or 3.
2 or 3 30 seconds. But if your tire gets that low, you should probably replace it anyways. I mean, there's a minimum for the state, but there's a real safe minimum.
Especially in the wintertime. I mean,
Yeah.
if you have a minimum tire, what happens is the tire doesn't have the ability to take the debris and throw it out. You don't get the fishtail behind your tire. So it really occurs for a slippery situation. Once again, use your head. If one day you go out and you're slipping all over the road, it's probably a good time to check your tire wear.
Is all tires got the same amount of tread when they come new, or are they different?
They're different. It depends what kind of tire you have, what quality of tire.
That means if you don't have a good quality tire, you may have less tread on it to start with.
Well, it's not necessarily.
No?
I don't think is the rule of thumb. I think you have performance tires and you have Speed-rated tires, we could probably do a whole show on tires.
Yeah.
Because there are many types of tires, and the way the tires come in the vehicles are all different depending on your model. You know, if you get yourself a Grand Prix, I'm sure that you're going to have a performance tire. And with performance, you give up wear. So it'll hold the road at 180, but may only last 20,000 miles. And if you get a regular type vehicle, like let's say this Caravan, it doesn't need a speed-rated tire. You know, I don't think that this owner will go around 150 miles an hour. He may, but we're not really sure on that one. So it would probably have more of a middle-of-the-road tire, where you would have average wear and average traction.
Okay, so is it always good to know where your spare tire is located in some vehicles?
Well, once again...
we may have to go back and take a look where it is in this one, because I think it's hid away.
Well, once again, you know, it's always good to know what you're driving, you know. You don't want to occur an emergency because you're not prepared. So I believe that if you're in your vehicle, a good thing to do is to look at the owner's manual, find out what all of these items are. And so when an emergency does happen, you know, you don't have to panic, you know where everything is.
So let's go around to the back of the car. That's where the spares are usually put, right?
Usually.
Yeah, and we'll go back and see where it is in this car. Where are some of the places that a jack can be located?
Well, generally you'll want to consult your owner's manual, but this vehicle is marked on the side that says jack storage. It usually carries your lug wrench and your jack.
Right. Bill, is it important to know how to use your jack, and or is they all the same?
Well, I think it's important, once again, you need to consult your owner's manual. You know, a couple important facts is that probably when you have a flat and you feel like that it's an emergency, you need to slow down and take a look and see what you're doing. Once again, we found this piece. I know what this is now. It's a lug wrench. There's the jack, and the spare tire is located over here. What you would do is you would take this lug wrench and you would turn this down to get the spare tire up first. And then I think that before you would jack up your vehicle, what you need to do is I would take the lug wrench and loosen up the lug nut. Because if you pick up your vehicle and it's off the ground and you go to use this lug nut, you could actually, they're on there tight, you could flip that, you probably flip the tire right off the jack. So I think it's important to loosen your lug nut while the tire is still flat on the ground, jack up your vehicle, take the lug nuts off the rest of the way, have your spare tire ready, put right back in the vehicle. If you're probably on the side of the road, there's traffic going by, and you're probably not going to be on a smooth, flat surface. Then you want to do is tighten up your lug nuts, kind of tight, lower the vehicle, and finish tightening. And if you have a problem with that, I think that you're going to want to, call your towing company or AA or something. Because it could become a dangerous situation if you, if you don't know how to do it.
Are there other places where the spare tire might be located in a car, or is it probably you refer to your maintenance manual too?
Just to refer to your owner's manual. They're all in different places.
Right.
So like I said, once again, when you do have a vehicle, it's probably important for you to go through your owner's manual and find out what all of these parts are.
Well, I want to thank you, Bill, for being here this morning. Chris, on hints on keeping your car going in cold weather. And some of these hints are come by you, and we've been able to help. Thank you very much. Okay, that was very interesting, gentlemen, back at the garage. And now that we're back here, Bill, should your headlights be checked for alignment?
Yeah.
You know?
I think they should be.
I notice sometimes I'm driving down the road and these lights come blinding at you, or they're pointing off to the side, or...
Yeah. Once again, if we, like to reiterate that vehicles are made differently than they were back 15 or 20 years ago. The headlight system is different. On some of the older vehicles, to change the headlight, you would actually have to take the cover off, pull down a couple brackets, and take the headlight completely out. On the newer vehicles now, they come with replacement bulbs, which actually you pop in. You have to open the hood, unplug the wire, and it's just a small halogen bulb.
Yep.
So the chances of your headlights going out of aim are less likely now than they used to be. I think that blinding that you see is that the bulb wattage for these vehicles are brighter.
Yeah.
And some people don't put their high beams down either, so that's pretty annoying.
Yeah. Maybe it's just my eyes. I don't know.
It could be your eyes, but
I know
it is important if you're driving down the road and you you can't see yourself, especially if you can't. You know, headlights really are straight ahead and 2 degrees down.
Yeah.
That's the rule of thumb.
Yeah.
If you all of a sudden look to your right and you can see, you know, you can see the corn stalks, and you probably headlights are out of line.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
so there's something that you, if you drive your vehicle every day, I mean, it's something that you would notice.
Yeah.
One thing is for inspection is something that we do notice, and when we check out the lights,
Yeah.
you can basically see if a headlight's out of line. So it's just one of those.
Yeah. If I understand it correctly, then there shouldn't be any lights that you put on when you're on the highways of New Hampshire above the headlights.
That would be auxiliary lighting,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, only made for off-road and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Bill, I know there are many different things to check for inspection. You know, you go to get your car inspected, but are there specific things, or is it just everything, or there's one thing more important than other things, or what are some of the things that are mandatory?
Well, basically, we have a book about that thick, you know, which explains all of the laws and the minimum requirements for all different parts of your vehicle. Headlight aiming, ball joints, tires. You know, the list I think that we go by is, you know, usually what we'll do is we'll bring a vehicle into the garage, and we'll check the lights first, and then we'll set the lift up and jack the car up. We'll check the brakes, tires, exhaust. This state we also check for rust holes. Rust holes are important, especially in the back, because if you do have rust holes, you know, the danger part is that, you know, people always ask, well, it's just a little hole. Well, your exhaust could actually go underneath the underbody of the vehicle and go inside the passenger compartment, and that's a dangerous carbon monoxide situation. So we do have, you know, bylaws and guidelines to go by. Well, what we're really looking for is we're really looking to make sure that the vehicle is safe to be on the highways. You know, for the person driving the vehicles, and also the people that aren't driving the vehicles. You know, I mean, if you don't check a vehicle out properly, I mean, people have accidents because brake lines break, brake hoses break, and you know, I believe we do the best job we can. We try to check as many of the safety items, in fact, all the safety items that we're required to do.
Right. Are seat belts part of this inspection, or do you check seat belts, or make sure they
you're
work?
supposed to check seat belts.
Yeah.
And seat belts, cracks in windshields. You know, the law says the wipers need to go so many times per minute back and forth. I mean, we surely don't put your wipers on and watch them go back and forth for a minute.
No.
You know, basically, you just go by judgment when you put your wipers on. You know, see how fast or how slowly they're going. So there are a lot of safety issues that we do check, which is by law, and we do those. And really, it's for the safety of the consumer that we do those safety check items.
Right. If we would, Chris, maybe just add a little bit to this. Could you say why these are important things? Just to add what Bill just mentioned.
Safety is number one. You get into a situation where you're coming to a traffic light and there's 5 cars in front of you and you're trying to stop, and someone down the street put an inspection sticker on your car and your brakes fail.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's a lot of recourse as far as that goes. Basically, it's number one reason is safety. I mean, you don't want to find yourself in a situation. Safety for you and others.
So I know a lot of these things, they cost a lot of money too for people, and you know, it's either they're safe or they have to spend the money to get it fixed, I guess. And so, you know.
And you know, in the last 10 years, you know, when you were in business, we used to have inspections twice a year.
Right.
And I think that for inspections, that's a lot of time. That's the only time that a lot of people have their cars checked. You know, like I reiterated before, I believe that the cars run better and last longer. And I think that the time between when people have to check them out is longer and longer. So I believe the safety inspection for this state, I believe it's a good law. And once a year is enough. Some of the older cars maybe twice, but you know, we go by the law, and I think that works.
But I mean, I'm sure you get a lot of questions like, do you think my brakes will last for a year? Or do you think my tires will last for a year?
And that's
you know, that's a judgment call.
And that's a hard thing for us to determine. We have minimum specifications. I think that when we have a situation where it is at the minimum specification, we tell the customer. We try to, obviously, with what we do, is that, you know, your car legally passes, but we would recommend that at some point you recheck them. If you have somebody that does a lot of city driving, their brakes will not last as long as somebody who does a lot of highway driving.
Right.
So there are a lot of factors involved with trying to determine how long something will last.
Yeah.
And it really depends on your driving habits and how you drive.
Sure.
If someone delivers pizzas, well, his brakes will probably go in a month. You know, we've had customers in the past that deliver newspapers, and you know, once a month we're putting brakes on because
Yeah.
it's always start and go.
Yeah.
So it really depends on your habits.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. You know, today everyone is kind of concerned in how many gallons of gasoline it takes to go so many miles. But is there a particular way that somebody can check their gas mileage, or would you recommend to somebody if somebody says, well, how do I check my mileage? You know,
Well,
I know that in the winter you don't get as many miles, but as you do in the summer and all that. But is there an easy way, or is there a quick way to find out how many miles per gallon that I get with my car?
well, of course, the quickest way is the first thing you need to do would be to fill your fuel tank to begin with. And if either you would write down your mileage on a piece of paper, or most vehicles now have a trip odometer. Just reset your trip odometer. The next time you go to fill up, it can only be half a tank. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you fill it back up again to the top. Check the miles that you went between the fill up and what you just put in, and just divide the two. Divide the miles by how many gallons, and that'll give you about the miles per gallon. Of course, in the wintertime, most people will warm their vehicles up to get that windshield clear and get the passenger compartment a little bit warmer as you're driving down the road, and that does affect your fuel mileage.
Yeah.
And one good thing that it does do is that, you know, if all of a sudden you notice that you're getting, you know, poorer fuel mileage, and then you probably have a problem going on, a situation, either a tune-up or something's wrong. So if you do that on a consistent basis.
And I'm sure that if you get caught in a traffic jam somewhere and you're there for half an hour with your car idling, you know, that has some effect on your mileage.
It brings a song up, damn that traffic jam, how I hate to be late.
I know. Yeah, and you know,
Right?
you know, if you let your car idle for 15 minutes, you got automatic starters now.
Okay.
And you start up your car, you know, 10, 15 minutes before, and that has an effect on it too, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Chris, I know everybody has their owner's manual available to them at all times, but how important is that for people to read that owner's manual?
You should always understand your car. Know where the spare tire is, where the jack is, how the heater works, the wipers work. Everything is in there that you need to know about your car. All your basic things that your average car owner would need to know is in the owner's manual. And if you understand it, your car will just perform that much better.
Right. So is it important to keep records of all your maintenance? And I'm sure that in this little maintenance book that you have, there's a place in there where you can put down when you change your oil and all that?
Yeah.
It's a good idea to check that out?
We actually have a few customers that come in and they come to us rather than go to the dealer to have their oil changed, and basically they're just looking for a stamp. After we service their vehicle, we'll stamp, write the mileage, stamp it with the shop stamp, and that'll keep records in case there is a problem with your car that you need to bring it back for a warranty type of item.
Yeah, so is it always important it's always important to mark all that stuff down in your maintenance book? And how does that affect your warranties? Doesn't that have some effect on your warranties if you keep good records when it comes time if something happens?
It does, and the situation with us is that the dealers, when you buy a vehicle, tell the consumer that they should only go to the dealership for all their scheduled maintenance.
Yeah.
That's the only way that they have a warranty, and that's not true.
I see. Okay.
You know, they tell you to use specific oils and all this other, you know, we call garbage. That's not true.
Yeah.
If you go to a reputable service center, I mean, anyone that you choose, and most of them will use the proper weight oil and type of oil for your vehicle.
Yeah.
And as long as you keep that maintenance record of when you change your oil and within the recommended allotments in your owner's manual, then you really you do have recourse if something goes wrong with your engine or any of those warranty items. And to keep a record of it is a good thing to do. You know, and in those owner's manuals, it isn't just oil changes. With the newer cars, it's timing belts. It's, you know, checking your ball joints and checking your tires, and it's all in there. And like Chris said, you know, just whenever you do, you know, have a vehicle, you know, just takes a minute to get the book out and just take a look through it so you are familiar with what needs to be done to maintain your vehicle. Because it's an important thing to have, and I guess it's like one of those things is you don't miss it until you don't have it.
Right.
You know, we jump in them and off we go, but when they
Right.
break down, usually it's not at a good
Right.
time. So a little maintenance goes a long way.
It's always good probably to keep your slips too, isn't it? For
Yeah,
your
of course.
repairs or whatever.
Yep.
Keep a record of that and
Correct.
when things were done and
Yep.
good.
Exactly.
Thank you. Chris, is there important information you should have when calling for road service? You know, all of a sudden you need road service, but is there some information